Hey guys, so I wanted to come on here and talk about this story. And before I get to it, I want to say this because I was getting emails from people asking me what's going on because they notice I haven't put up videos. A lot of people may have missed it, but I actually announced that my best friend was coming into town to visit for her birthday and that I wouldn't really be doing videos. I believe that I announced that, but if I didn't, to the people who were sending me emails, I am fine. My best friend flew out here from Portland. Um, well, not Portland and Vancouver. She flew out here from Vancouver, and so that's what I was doing. I was dealing with her, and it was for her birthday. So, we were kind of just celebrating our birthday, but that's why I wasn't online. I did post videos up on Saturday. So, I mean, that was the last time. It's just been, 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But I know people are used to me putting out content every day. So, thanks to the people who have been concerned. Thanks for the people who reached out. I'm going to try to be getting back to emails today because I wasn't getting back to emails. Yeah, we just been running these streets when she was here. And so, yeah, but I do want to get to this story because, look, I already did a video talking about how parents don't raise their children to live in the reality that we currently live in. They're teaching them based on a fantasy. Many parents have this all lives matter. We don't live in a system of white supremacy. We live in a system of equality mentality. They seem to believe that white Jesus is going to handle every single thing in society for them. So they are not even concerned about instilling pride in their children. They don't want to instill self-value in their children. They'll educate their children on this misconception that somehow there's a white sky God that's going to come down and save them. But they don't teach their children to have self-value and not to allow white people to do this to their children. Because if black people were instilling pride and dignity and self-respect in their children among anything, how likely is it that you would have black students even allowing white students to put nooses around their neck? Okay. So even though this is white supremacists and white people doing what they do best, the reality of it is that this is on the parents. This has to be on the parents, because teaching your children to defend themselves, teaching your children to value themselves, teaching your children not to allow these people to victimize them racially, it's what's going to make the change. Because again, nobody is causing but black people to ignore the reality that they live in. We can sit here and acknowledge that we've been conditioned. We can sit here and acknowledge that we've been programmed. But once you acknowledge that, what's the next step? Because we're getting stagnant at this point where it comes to engaging in behaviors that is going to be conducive to change. And one of those behaviors that needs to be engaged in is parents need to start teaching their children. And the reason why we have this generational slave mentality to where we are now is because many black people really do believe, number one, that they are inferior. Number two, they believe that white people are superior to them. And number three, they really do believe that there is some kind of racism and racial animus or hatred involved in them teaching their children to love themselves and not allow white people to treat them any way that they want to. And that's a decision that black people are making. You have to choose after you recognize that you're brainwashed, after you recognize that you've been okey-doked, after you recognize that you've been programmed to engage in these behaviors. What is the next step? Because knowing is only half the battle. We claim that we've been known about this situation before I've even been born, because a lot of those scholars and black leaders that people are referencing, those were around before I was born and before a lot of you were born. And there were people back then, and I know there were people back then because Frances Cress Welsing's ISIS paper came out back then, where she was sitting there talking about white supremacy, the mentality of white supremacy, and the need to teach children self-love. So at this point, Black people just aren't learning. And that's why when I get up there and I say what I say, because this is on Black people. If Black people were raising their children with self-love and raising them to understand not only the system that they live in, but the people who maintain the system and benefit from the system that they live in, how likely is it that you would be having these situations where you have photos of white people standing on the backs of Black children, where you have situations at school where you have white children humping on other children, where you have teachers who are able to get Black students to lay on the floor so she can walk on their back? This is on Black people. That's just the reality of what it is. When your child goes to school and interacts with white people and they're not educated as to the psychology that white people have that they're passing down to their children, even if you felt like racism was a learned behavior and it wasn't natural and these are just good, kind human beings who have been corrupted by their parents, why wouldn't you be teaching your children to have a mindset that's going to be conducive to dealing with their children? Because you know that they're teaching their children to hate you. So why wouldn't you teach your children to love themselves and engage in manners to where these white teens will not feel comfortable doing these things to your children? We have to look at the parenting. We have to look at the passive mindset of Black people today, adults, over generations, because that's how you're getting to the Black people today who are passive and who are having nooses hung around their neck by a classmate. Because whenever you see a situation like this, it's not one student just targeting the student because they wanted to target a student that day. Usually when you get down to it, there's a pathology behind it. There's some behaviors that were present before. It wasn't the first time the victim and the victimizer interacted. So the thing of it is Black people are dropping the ball on this all day, every day, but then we want to run around screaming Black Lives Matter. But yet we don't value Black lives enough to teach our children to have the effective mindset so that they're not falling victim to this. It says, Osheta Parish teen was arrested and charged with a hate crime and simple battery after reportedly putting a noose around the neck of a Black classmate. The juvenile has since bonded out of Green Oaks Juvenile Detention Center. His name cannot be released because of laws protecting juveniles. They're lying because there's been several juveniles. Those juveniles in Chicago who they accused of having a hate crime, not only did they release their images, but they released their names too. The laws protecting juveniles are federal laws, meaning they apply in every state across this country. But yet we knew the names and not only the images of those teens in Chicago who allegedly beat up that white kid with under the hate crime laws. But yet they'll tell you it can't be released because they're protecting a juvenile. No, it's not. You just don't want to release the name or the photo of this white student because you want people to think that this student could be any race, when in reality it's not. This is a white student, because notice how they say Osheta Parish teen was charged with a hate crime. Well, a parish teen could be anybody that lives in that parish. This is a white student. They just don't want to show you the face of a white student being a racial terrorist, because they want you to believe that racism does not exist. They want you to believe that somehow racism died when slavery ended. They want you to believe that racism is something that adults are perpetuating and not their white children. Because if you go to the white children perpetuating racism, then surely the white parents today are racist. And the interesting thing is that this teen is in school right now, clearly extremely racist. A few years from now, a Black person will be dating this racist teen, saying that they're not racist. Because how many Black people who are in relationship with white people now have no idea of the racism they were engaging in just a few minutes before they even met that Black person? But Black people don't care to vet these people. They just want to lay down with them because white is right. But it says the account of the incident was provided by the mother of the reported victim in a statement to the Monroe Free Press, which was published anonymously. look, they're doing everything to protect this white psychopathic demon. But again, even if they're doing everything to protect the white psychopathic demon, Black people have been known that these situations exist, and they still refuse to raise their children in a manner that's going to be conducive to dealing with this. It says in her statement, she said a student walked up to her son on September 14th and hung a noose around his neck. So this white student was bold enough to do this to the Black son, who was probably bigger in size and stronger just by virtue of him being Black. But he was able to do this. This white student had no fear doing this, walking up to her son, putting a noose around his neck. Now, either one of two things can be the case. Either this kid knew this Black dude, and he knew he was like a little coon in training. He probably seen him walking around only attaching himself to white girls, probably made it known that he didn't even like the girls in his own race. Either that was the case, or our children and our Black parents are so passive and slave-minded that just like the white woman in Spain, this white student rolled the dice and said, I bet that I can put a noose around and terrorize this Black student around his neck and terrorize this Black student, and nothing will happen to me. Either way, the outcome is the same, and you've got a huge problem that Black people are not dealing with on any level. You're not dealing with it on a spiritual level. You're not dealing with racism on a psychological level. You're not dealing with racism on an educational level. Black people are simply ignoring that racism exists. Now, it says when a teacher asked a white student why he did it, he reportedly replied that he wanted to see how many Black boys' necks he could put it around and get photos. Now, the second scenario clearly was right, because I said either he just believes that they're very bold. Now, this is a racial terrorist. This is a racial terrorist, a high school age racial terrorist. What do you think he's going to be doing by the time he gets 30? Probably already looks 30 now, but what do you think he's going to be doing if he's walking around in school saying that he wants to see how many Black boys' necks? Mind you, there was a recent time, when a white boy would have never approached a Black boy on this level, because there was a reputation that Black men had that would spill over to Black boys because they think that y'all are men anyway. Black male passivity is at an all-time high, and when they run around talking about we're not going to protect the women, you have situations like this where it sends out almost a bat signal to tell all white people the men are completely dominated and submissive, and they won't protect themselves. Where are the Black fathers to teach their Black boys to respect and defend themselves in a manner so that these white terrorist children won't believe that they can just walk up? Because he's saying, that means he's saying, it could be a million Black boys in the school. He said the amount of Black boys don't even matter. I already know they're so fractured, they're so self-hating, they're so weak and passive. I, as one singular white boy, want to go around and see how many nooses I can put on the necks of these passive Black boys. Then he wanted to put it around with photos. What were they doing back in Jim Crow? They were lynching Black men, photographing it, and selling the photos. So y'all explain to me, if not all white people are bad, and if this ain't Jim Crow, and if this ain't slavery, why do you have children, white kids, with the exact same mentality, wanting to carry out the exact same actions of their white ancestors, their white parents, their white grandparents, because it wasn't that far off. So you literally have grandparents. These are the grandchildren of white people who were watching Black people strung up from trees. Now, Black people will say, oh, well, they weren't there. They didn't do anything. We should date them anyway. Okay, well, date Satan's children. You date the child of a demon, you're still getting a demon, no matter which way you pitch it. It said, according to the mother's statement, the white teen was initially suspended for 10 days until she pressed charges and pushed for expulsion. The victim's family has an attorney. According to the Monroe Free Press, 4th Judicial District Attorney Steve Tu confirmed that a teen was arrested and bonded out. He said the incident remains under investigation. Now, they're not going to do anything to this kid. And I'm going to tell you why they're not going to do anything to this kid. Number one, they don't punish white kids. Number two, black people don't give them any incentive. And number three, if they can kill black people and get away with it, why wouldn't this white teen be able to put a noose around the neck of a black teen with the intent of being a racial terrorist to all black teens? Why would that be a problem if you can kill a black man and get away with it? If you can kill a black woman and get away with it? If you can kill a black child and get away with it, because black fathers are nowhere there, by and large, to protect their children. That doesn't mean all black male parents are failing, but a lot of them are. Because when you got white supremacists who can snatch little black boys off the bus to torture them, and you see black men on social media, because they watch our social medias, having discussions about why they shouldn't protect the women in their community, this is what happens. And it will continue to happen because black men can't even see that by giving out public notices that they're not going to protect the women and children of their communities, debating whether they should or not. All outsiders, all they see is that this is a vulnerable community. I can get my kicks off by racial terrorizing them because the black men already said they shouldn't protect them. Because the reality of it is they're not just failing to protect women in the community, they're failing to protect their children too. That little girl who had a white supremacist piss on her because she was playing in the alley, her father was at home. What happened to that white man when he found out that his child was pissed on and called a nigger? So people can run around and talk about this feminism all day, every day, but the reality is cowardliness that is making these men, causing these men to allow their children to be murdered and terrorized without doing anything. Because as you notice, every single thing in here refers to the mother of this boy. It says, according to the mother's statement, the mother pressed charges, the mother pushed for expulsion, the mother did the interview. Where was the father? I don't care how broken and fractured the relationship between the black mother and the black father is, that does not leave him off the hook to protect his child. Because where is that black father going and confronting the white father of that child and dealing with it that way? Where is the black father? Superintendent Dan Coker said the teacher and administration handled the issue immediately. The student resource officer and parents were notified and students were questioned at the school that day. Coker said the white student was disciplined, but he can't discuss the nature of the punishment because of student privacy. An additional hearing on this matter is scheduled. Now, the thing of it is that they give the same excuse with every white person. They give the same excuse with every white person, whether they're a student, politician, officer, or whatever. They'll always tell you, we disciplined them. But they'll never tell you how or what they did to discipline them. Whether it's a student, they'll always say, privacy reasons. We don't release the name of these juvenile criminals because of juvenile protection, but we'll do it if they're black. And black people stand for this because despite all of these incidents of your student being racially terrorized, what has black parents done? I know my sister wrote a letter up to the school that her sons goes to and made them aware that she will not be dealing with any racist students or racist teachers. What are other black people doing? Clearly nothing, because these things keep happening to other people's kids. Now, I can assure you it will not happen to my nephew, because my sister has already gone up there several times, made herself present. Even my nephew's white dad went up there, made himself present. I've gone up to my nephew's school, made myself present. Where are the black fathers for these black students who are getting terrorized? Because y'all can't put it on single mothers. That man, he's not dead. He's probably not in jail. He has an obligation to his children. Where are they at? Because at the end of the day, that man laid down with his kid. He still needs to protect his kid, even if he hates the mother. And it's very disturbing that we live in a society where the men think it's okay to deny their children protection, to deny their children a father, just because he doesn't like the mother. Although nobody raped him, he laid down, chose to have unprotected sex. She laid down, chose to have unprotected sex, yet only one of them are raising the children. And a lot of men have too callous of an attitude in regards to the protection that their children need. Because this boy did nothing to deserve for his father to fail to protect him. And just because you're a single mother does not mean that you can't instill love, self-love in your child. But how much is that little black boy going to love himself when he thinks about the fact that the man who laid down and created him isn't even there? So even if we didn't have a system of racial hatred and terrorism and self-hating indoctrination being fed to your children would have low self-esteem just based off the fact that the person who created them is not here to deal with them. And I'll tell you, because I know, because I've sit there as a child and wondered why my father wasn't there. I know my mom didn't run him off. I know my mom didn't say she was a feminist. I know my mom didn't say she wanted to be independent. I know my mom didn't choose a man. When she met him at 15, she didn't choose a drug addict. He went and decided to be a drug addict. Actually, my mom was trying to help him to be a boxer. But this man chose to do what he wanted to do, because as a human with free will, he has the right to choose to do whatever he wants to do, regardless to the detriment that his actions have on other people. But the men are continuing with this environment and this lack of protection that they're publicizing all over social media. This is a hateful negligence that these absentee fathers are showing and are doing, and causing more damage to their community than anything the white supremacy can do. This is on the parents. When the mothers fail to raise their children with self-esteem, self-love, knowledge of self, and the desire to self-preserve and defend themselves against racial terrorist attacks, you are failing your child more than the system of white supremacy can. Because you could offset the white supremacist system. You could cause it to crumble just by teaching your child self-love. And just because you're a single mom, just because you work, just because you feel like you don't have the time, that doesn't matter. If you got time to teach your child about Jesus, you got time to teach your child about these white terrorists that are running around here and the children that they're raising. There are no excuses, no excuses. Black parents are failing their children. That is why this is happening. That's why you have a generation after generation after generation where white people are continuously dominating low self-esteem, self-hating, slave-minded Black people. Because you're raising the children that you want in society, and you're not raising warriors. You guys, let me know what you think. Thank you for your support. I'm going to be doing a discussion in about 15 minutes here on the Bill Cosby situation on a Mary's Blog Talk Radio. So you guys may want to go to Blog Talk Radio if you can. Search for The Great Liberators, and we'll be discussing this Cosby verdict. For anybody who don't know, Bill Cosby was charged and convicted to 3 to 10 years in prison. And so me and Mary are going to be discussing that on Blog Talk Radio at 9 a.m. Eastern time this morning. So it'll be in about 15 minutes. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you for your support. I'll see you in the next video.